Every woman carries a silent language that rarely comes out in words. It appears in the way she carries herself, the subtle gestures she makes, and the quiet moments when she allows her guard to slip. When she instinctively reveals a part of herself that she normally keeps protected, she isn't simply being casual. In many cases, she's communicating a level of comfort and trust that words haven't expressed yet. This isn't about guessing or wishful thinking. Human behavior has been shaped by countless generations of instinct, and our bodies often communicate long before our voices do. Think back to a time when you were talking with a woman and suddenly something felt different. Maybe the atmosphere changed, or perhaps her body language shifted in a way you couldn't explain. Before your mind could understand it, your instincts already noticed it. That wasn't imagination. It was your brain responding to subtle social cues that people naturally display. Throughout this video, you'll discover 9 powerful signals that many men overlook completely. These aren't dramatic gestures or obvious declarations. They're quiet moments where body language often reveals emotions before words ever can. One particular signal, number 7, is especially fascinating because it's deeply rooted in human behavior. Once you recognize it, you'll begin to see many past interactions from a completely different perspective. Before we begin, it's important to understand one thing. Attraction is rarely announced out loud. More often, it quietly reveals itself through small, meaningful actions that most people never stop to notice. The first sign isn't found in what she says. It begins with what her body quietly chooses to reveal. Picture the two of you sharing a conversation. Without thinking, she gently moves her hair away from her neck while maintaining eye contact. It seems like a simple movement, but your attention is naturally drawn to it. There's often a reason for that. The neck is one of the most exposed and vulnerable areas of the body, and people instinctively protect it. When a woman unconsciously exposes it around someone, it can reflect a level of ease and comfort that her words haven't expressed. Her body may already recognize you as someone she feels relaxed around, even before she consciously realizes it herself. The second signal is even easier to overlook. As she talks, laughs, or tells a story, notice how she uses her hands. If her palms remain open and the inside of her wrists naturally face you, she's displaying one of the clearest forms of nonverbal openness. The inner wrist is another sensitive area that people rarely expose without feeling at ease. This isn't something most people deliberately control. It happens naturally when defenses begin to lower. Compare that to someone sitting with folded arms, clenched hands, or a closed posture. The difference becomes obvious once you start paying attention. These first 2 signals aren't loud declarations of attraction. Instead, they're quiet signs that trust may be developing, creating the foundation for a deeper emotional connection before either person ever speaks about it. The next 2 signals move beyond simple comfort and begin to suggest something deeper. Imagine you're both fully engaged in conversation. The outside world seems to fade away, and without giving it much thought, her fingers slowly glide across her collarbone or lightly adjust a necklace that didn't really need fixing. At first glance, it appears to be an ordinary habit. But the collarbone sits at the natural boundary between what people openly display and what they instinctively keep private. When her attention repeatedly moves to that area while she's focused on you, it may be her body's subtle way of inviting you to notice her on a deeper level. She's not necessarily trying to attract attention. Instead, she's becoming more comfortable allowing herself to be seen. The fourth signal takes that feeling even further. You're sitting together and the conversation becomes quieter, more personal and more meaningful. Without making a big deal of it, she slowly slips a jacket or sweater off one shoulder instead of keeping it tightly wrapped around herself. The pace of the movement matters. Slow, relaxed actions often communicate greater comfort than sudden ones. In human behavior, removing an extra layer around someone can symbolize lowering emotional defenses. She isn't simply adjusting her clothes. Her body may be reflecting a growing sense of safety in your presence. The distance between the public version of herself and the more authentic one begins to shrink. These signals aren't guarantees of attraction on their own, but together they often reveal that trust is gradually becoming something much more personal. The fifth signal is so subtle that most people never notice it, yet it often reveals where someone's attention naturally rests. Picture yourself in a group conversation with several people talking at once. Everyone seems equally involved, but if you glance down, you may notice her knees and feet are consistently angled toward you instead of toward the center of the group or the nearest exit. Research on body orientation suggests that people often point themselves toward the person they feel most engaged with, even without realizing it. Her words may be shared with everyone around her, but her posture quietly reflects where her interest is focused. These unconscious movements are difficult to fake because they usually happen before the mind has time to think about them. The sixth signal appears during completely ordinary moments. She reaches for something above her, stretches after sitting for a while, or shifts her posture naturally. For a brief moment, the natural curve of her lower back becomes more noticeable. This isn't necessarily a deliberate attempt to attract attention. Across many cultures, posture has long been associated with confidence, femininity, and physical comfort. Rather than focusing on the movement itself, notice how relaxed and effortless it feels. Genuine attraction often shows itself through natural body language rather than carefully planned actions. These subtle posture changes can simply reflect that she feels comfortable enough to move freely around you. When combined with the earlier signs of trust and openness, they become another piece of the larger picture, reminding you that meaningful connection is usually communicated through a series of consistent behaviors rather than one isolated gesture. Now we come to the signal that often leaves the strongest impression because it operates almost entirely beneath conscious awareness. Imagine she's standing nearby, leaning casually against a doorway or resting beside a counter. Without thinking, she shifts her weight comfortably onto one hip while glancing back in your direction. It's an effortless movement that seems completely natural, yet it often captures attention immediately. Human beings are remarkably sensitive to posture, and certain body positions naturally draw the eye because they've been associated with confidence, relaxation, and attraction across many cultures. You don't consciously decide to notice it. Your brain responds before you even realize why. That's why moments like these can feel so memorable even when almost nothing has been said. The eighth signal happens during conversation itself. You're talking comfortably when, for just a brief second, her eyes drift toward your lips before returning to your face. Almost at the same moment, she lightly touches or gently bites her lower lip without realizing she's doing it. The action lasts only an instant, but it often reflects heightened emotional awareness. During moments of excitement or anticipation, people naturally touch their faces or lips as part of unconscious self-soothing behavior. It isn't something she plans or rehearses. Her body simply reacts to the emotions she's experiencing in that moment. Like every other signal discussed so far, this gesture shouldn't be interpreted on its own. But when it appears consistently alongside several other signs of comfort, openness, and genuine engagement, it becomes another meaningful piece of the silent conversation her body may be having long before her words fully express it. The final signal brings everything together. Up until now, each gesture has represented a small part of a much larger message, but this last one often speaks louder than any of the others. Imagine you're both in a busy place filled with people. She has plenty of room to stand somewhere else, yet she repeatedly chooses the space beside you. The distance between you gradually disappears. Her shoulder lightly brushes yours, and instead of stepping back, she remains exactly where she is. She doesn't seem uncomfortable or eager to create space. Instead, she appears completely at ease, sharing that closeness. In body language, voluntarily reducing physical distance is often one of the strongest signs that someone feels safe, relaxed, and emotionally connected. It isn't about invading personal space. It's about naturally wanting to remain close to someone whose presence feels comforting. However, this is where many people make a mistake. No single gesture should ever be viewed as absolute proof of attraction or romantic interest. One movement might simply reflect personality, habit, or the situation itself. The real meaning comes from patterns rather than isolated moments. When several of these signals appear consistently over time from the same woman, they begin to tell a more complete story. Instead of searching for one perfect clue, pay attention to the overall picture her body language creates. Genuine connection isn't built on assumptions or wishful thinking. It's built on observing consistent behavior with patience, respect, and emotional awareness. That's where real understanding begins. As you've seen, these signals aren't about memorizing a checklist or trying to predict someone's feelings after a single interaction. Their real value lies in understanding what they represent. When a woman consistently displays several of these behaviors around you, she may be expressing a level of comfort that goes far beyond ordinary conversation. More importantly, she's allowing herself to be genuine instead of carefully controlling every movement. There's a meaningful difference between someone trying to impress you and someone simply feeling safe enough to be themselves. The men who recognize that difference usually build stronger, healthier relationships because they respond with patience rather than assumptions. Most people focus on what they hope to gain from attraction, but the wiser approach is to focus on understanding the person standing in front of you. Genuine trust is something that's earned through kindness, consistency, and respect, not by analyzing every small movement. A woman who gradually lowers her emotional defenses is showing confidence in how you'll treat that vulnerability. That deserves appreciation rather than exploitation. The strongest connections are built when both people feel understood, valued, and emotionally secure. Instead of asking, "What can I get from this moment?" ask yourself, "How can I create an environment where trust naturally grows?" That shift in perspective changes everything, because meaningful relationships are never built on manipulation. They're built on mutual respect, honest communication, and the willingness to truly see one another beyond the surface. In the end, none of this was ever about learning clever techniques or discovering a secret formula for attraction. It has always been about recognizing the quiet ways people communicate when words aren't enough. Long before someone openly expresses how they feel, their body language often begins telling part of the story. A glance, a relaxed posture, shared proximity, or repeated signs of comfort can reveal that trust is slowly developing. When you learn to notice these moments with maturity and respect, you stop relying on guesswork and begin paying attention to genuine human connection instead. The strongest relationships rarely begin with perfect conversations or flawless timing. More often, they grow through small, consistent moments where two people gradually feel safe enough to lower their defenses. Real attraction isn't built on rehearsed lines or dramatic gestures. It's built on mutual trust, emotional safety, and the willingness to truly understand one another. That's why patience matters far more than rushing to conclusions. The goal isn't simply to recognize body language, it's to respond in a way that makes the other person feel respected, heard, and appreciated. If this discussion helped you look at human behavior from a different perspective, take a moment to reflect on the interactions you've experienced in your own life. You may remember moments that finally make sense now. Share your thoughts in the comments and let others know which signal stood out to you the most. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to continue exploring the psychology behind attraction, relationships, and nonverbal communication, be sure to subscribe. There's much more to uncover, and this is only the beginning of what we'll explore together.